The knock came just as the rain began to fall. It was the kind of knock that carried urgency without being loud, and in that moment, everything quietly changed. Elaine had not been expecting anyone that evening. The house was calm, wrapped in the soft hum of the heater and the ticking clock on the wall. She had just settled into her chair, tea warming her hands, thoughts drifting nowhere important. When the knock came again, firmer this time, her heart reacted before her mind did. She stood slowly, feeling a strange tightness in her chest. Some instinct told her this visit mattered. She opened the door and froze. Standing there was her nephew, Daniel. Rain clung to his jacket, his hair damp, his eyes far too serious for someone his age. He was barely into adulthood, yet he looked older somehow. "Hi, Aunt Elaine," he said softly. His voice trembled, and that alone made her step aside without question. Inside, the warmth of the house met the cold he carried in with him. Daniel hesitated, as if unsure whether to cross fully into the room. Elaine gently closed the door behind him. "You look exhausted," she said, trying to sound calm. Her heart was racing now, though she did not yet know why. Daniel nodded and removed his jacket. He didn't sit right away. Instead, he stood there, hands clenched, breathing uneven. Elaine had watched this boy grow up. She remembered scraped knees, shy smiles, and the way he used to hide behind his father's leg. Seeing him like this made something ache deep inside her. "What happened?" she asked quietly. Not urgently, not accusingly. Daniel finally looked up at her, and in his eyes was something she had never seen before. Regret. "I didn't know where else to go," he said. "I needed to tell you something. In person." Elaine gestured toward the sofa. They sat, leaving a small space between them that felt much larger than it was. Outside, the rain picked up, tapping against the windows like a restless reminder. Inside, time seemed to slow. Daniel reached into his bag and pulled out a folded envelope. It was worn at the edges, as if it had been handled many times, but he didn't give it to her yet. "There's something you deserve to know," he said. His voice cracked, and he paused to steady himself. Elaine felt her throat tighten. Her mind raced through possibilities, none of them comforting. Still, she waited. "This isn't easy," Daniel continued. "And once I say it, things won't be the same." Elaine leaned forward slightly. She wanted to reach out, to reassure him, but something told her not to interrupt. Daniel took a deep breath. "I found something that was never meant for me." The clock ticked louder now, each second pressing against her chest. Elaine nodded, urging him on with words. "It was hidden. Old papers, letters," he said. "They weren't mine to read, but once I did, I couldn't ignore them." Elaine felt a chill move through her. Letters had a way of carrying truths long buried. She knew that too well. Daniel finally extended the envelope toward her. His hand shook as he held it out. "These are copies," he said. "I thought you should decide what to do next." Elaine stared at the envelope. She did not touch it yet. Some part of her feared that opening it would unravel more than just paper. "Who were they written by?" she asked softly. Daniel swallowed hard. "Someone you trusted," he replied, "and someone who loved you in a way you were never told about." The room felt smaller now, the air heavier. Elaine's heart pounded as memories surfaced, moments once dismissed as coincidence. Daniel stood up suddenly, pacing once before stopping in front of her. "I'm sorry," he said. "I didn't want to hurt you." Elaine finally reached for the envelope. Her fingers brushed the paper, and a quiet sadness settled over her. Sometimes truth does not arrive loudly. Sometimes it comes on a rainy evening, carried by someone who loves you enough to be honest. She looked up at her nephew. "Stay," she said gently. "I think I'm going to need you tonight." Daniel nodded, relief flickering across his face. As Elaine held the envelope in her lap, she knew this was only the beginning. If you're enjoying this story so far, please like the video and subscribe for more heartfelt tales. The rain continued to fall, and inside that envelope waited a message that would change everything. Elaine stared at the envelope for a long moment before opening it. Her hands felt heavier than they should have, as if the paper carried more than words. Daniel sat across from her, silent now. He watched her the way someone watches a storm they helped awaken, with worry and hope. Elaine slid a finger under the flap and unfolded the first page. The handwriting was careful, familiar, and painfully neat. Her breath caught the instant she recognized it. "Ow," she whispered. Daniel leaned forward. "You know who wrote it," he said quietly. It wasn't a question. Elaine nodded. Her eyes moved slowly across the page, line by line. Each sentence pulled a memory from deep inside her. The letter began gently, with concern, with affection, with words she had once longed to hear but never did. It spoke of mischances, of feelings held back out of fear, of choices made too late. Elaine felt her chest tighten. This was not anger she felt. It was grief. She remembered the writer clearly now, a friend from long ago, someone who had stood beside her during one of the hardest seasons of her life. He had been kind, attentive, always there, yet always just out of reach. She had assumed his care was simple loyalty. She had told herself not to read more into it. Now she realized how wrong she had been. Daniel watched her face change with every paragraph. He could see the weight of each sentence settling into her, slowly, deeply. The letter spoke of love, not dramatic or desperate, but steady and sincere. It spoke of regret for not speaking sooner, of respect for her life and her choices, of a promise never sent. Elaine lowered the page and pressed it against her chest. Her eyes closed as a quiet tear slipped down her cheek. She did not wipe it away. "I never knew," she said softly. Her voice barely filled the room. Daniel swallowed. "There were more," he said, "written over the years, but never mailed." Elaine opened her eyes and looked at him. "How did you find them?" Daniel hesitated before answering. "I was helping clean out the old storage room," he said. "They were in a box marked with your name." That made her heart sink further. Someone had meant for her to see them one day, just not yet. "Why now?" she asked quietly. Daniel's shoulders rose and fell with a deep breath. "Because the last letter was dated just weeks ago." Elaine froze. Her fingers tightened around the paper. "We thought he had forgotten," Daniel continued. "But he hadn't. He never did." Elaine felt the room tilt slightly. The idea that these feelings had endured all this time felt unreal, almost cruel. She picked up the next letter. This one was shorter, more direct. It spoke of time running out, of courage finally found, of a hope that had never truly faded. Elaine's thoughts drifted backward, to moments she had brushed aside, lingering looks, pauses in conversation, the warmth she had felt but never named. How different things might have been, she wondered. Or perhaps they had unfolded exactly as they were meant to. Daniel broke the silence. "There's something else," he said. Elaine looked up slowly. Her eyes were tired now, but clear. "He wanted me to give these to you," Daniel said. "He didn't know if you'd want to read them, but he wanted you to choose." Elaine set the letters down carefully. Her hands trembled slightly, not from fear, but from the weight of being seen so fully. "Where is he now?" she asked. Daniel hesitated. His expression changed, just slightly, enough to make her heart skip. "He's close," Daniel said. "Closer than you think." Elaine leaned back, her mind racing. 1,000 emotions tangled together. Surprise, sadness, a quiet warmth she hadn't felt in years. The rain outside had softened into a gentle drizzle. The house felt different now, as if it too was listening. Elaine gathered the letters and placed them back into the envelope, not to hide them, but to hold on to the moment a little longer. "Thank you," she said to Daniel, "for trusting me with this." Daniel nodded, relief visible in his face. "I just didn't want you to live without knowing," he said. Elaine looked toward the window. The night felt full of answered questions and possibilities she never expected. Some truths arrive late, but when they do, they ask something of us. Elaine knew sleep would not come easily that night, because now the past had reached forward, and the future was waiting to respond. Elaine barely slept that night. The letters rested on the table beside her, quiet but powerful. Every time she closed her eyes, the words returned. By morning, the rain had stopped. Sunlight filtered through the curtains, soft and unsure. It felt like the world was waiting for her to decide something. Daniel was already awake, sitting at the kitchen table. A mug of tea steamed in front of him, untouched. He looked up as she entered. "Did you rest at all?" he asked gently. Elaine smiled faintly. "A little," she said. It was not a lie, but it wasn't the full truth either. They sat together in silence for a moment. Not uncomfortable, just heavy with unspoken thoughts. Elaine finally reached for the envelope again. She hadn't finished reading all the letters. Some part of her had been afraid to. "I think I'm ready now," she said. Daniel nodded and stood, giving her space. He moved toward the window, staring outside as if keeping watch. Elaine unfolded the next letter slowly. This one was different, more personal, more vulnerable. It spoke of a memory she recognized instantly, a late afternoon walk they had taken years ago. She remembered the way the light had softened everything. He wrote about wanting to stop her then, to tell her how deeply she mattered, but fear had kept him quiet. Elaine exhaled shakily. She remembered that day too. She had felt something unsaid lingering in the air. The letter continued. It spoke of watching her build a life, of stepping back, even when it hurt, because her happiness mattered more. That was when the tears came freely, not from sadness alone, but from being loved so carefully. She pressed her hand to her mouth, steadying herself. How many years had passed like this? How many moments misunderstood? Daniel turned when he heard her breathe unevenly. He did not interrupt. He simply stayed close. The final letter was shorter than the rest. Its words were deliberate, almost final. It spoke of time feeling fragile, of wanting nothing more than a conversation, not to change the past, but to honor it. Elaine folded the letter and held it in her lap. Her heart felt full and broken at once. That kind of feeling leaves no room for doubt. "He never stopped caring," she said quietly. Daniel nodded. "He never did." Elaine looked at her nephew. "You said he's close," she reminded him. Daniel hesitated, then met her eyes. "He's staying nearby," he said. "He didn't want to intrude, not without your permission." Elaine stood slowly and walked to the window. The street looked ordinary, but nothing felt ordinary anymore. "Did he ask you to come here?" she asked. Daniel shook his head. "No, I chose to," he said. "I thought you deserved the truth." Elaine turned back toward him. Gratitude filled her eyes. "You did the right thing." She took a deep breath. There was a decision waiting to be made, and for the first time in a long while, she felt brave enough to face it. "I want to see him," she said. Daniel's shoulders relaxed, as if he had been holding his breath for hours. "Are you sure?" he asked. Elaine nodded. "Not because I expect anything," she said, "but because some things deserve to be spoken out loud." Daniel smiled softly. "I'll let him know."
The rest of the day passed slowly. Elaine moved through her routine with a strange calm, as if her heart had already stepped into the next moment. As evening approached, she changed into a simple sweater. Nothing special, just something that felt like herself. When the doorbell rang, her heart skipped. She stood still for a second, listening. This sound was different from last night's knock. Daniel opened the door. A voice followed. Familiar, warm, careful. Elaine took one step forward, then another. She hadn't seen him in years. Time had touched his hair and his eyes, but his presence felt exactly the same. He looked at her with quiet emotion. No rush, no expectation. "Elaine," he said. In that moment, the years between them faded. All that remained was the truth finally standing in the open. And she knew this conversation would change everything, not because it promised a future, but because it honored the past. Elaine's heart thudded as she stepped closer. The room felt charged, every small sound amplified. The soft hum of the heater, the faint creak of the floorboards, the quiet breathing between them. Time seemed to stretch, holding its breath. He smiled gently. Not a wide smile, but one that carried years of unspoken words. Elaine noticed the subtle lines around his eyes, the slight gray at his temples. Time had passed, yet it had not dimmed the warmth she remembered. "Thank you for coming," she said softly. Her voice shook, just slightly, betraying her calm facade. He nodded. "I wasn't sure you'd want to see me," he admitted, "but I had to try." Elaine swallowed. There was so much to say, yet none of it seemed enough. Words had failed them before. Would they fail again now? He took a step closer, and she realized she didn't want him to stop. Not now, not ever. "Daniel told me everything," she said. I read the letters." He exhaled slowly, relief mingling with apprehension. "I hoped you would. I never imagined the right time would come." He paused, as if choosing each word carefully. "I only wanted you to know the truth, always." Elaine nodded. Her fingers clutched the fabric of her sweater. "I needed to know," she admitted, "and I'm glad you trusted me enough to reach out." He smiled again, small but full of meaning. "I had no right to expect anything," he said, "but seeing you here, it feels like a weight lifted." The room felt impossibly still. The evening light filtered softly through the windows, painting them in muted gold. For a moment, they simply existed in the quiet. No past, no regrets, just a fragile, honest present. Elaine took a tentative step closer.
"I've thought about what could have been," she whispered. "And maybe some of that time was meant to teach us patience or resilience." He nodded, his eyes softening. "I've wondered about that too," he admitted. "Every letter was a way to stay close without imposing. I hoped one day you'd understand." Elaine's lips curved in a faint smile. "I understand now," she said, "and somehow it feels right." The conversation lingered, both fragile and steady. They shared memories, small moments from years past, laughter that had been tucked away. Even the silence between words carried significance. Then he paused. His expression shifted slightly, hesitant. "Elaine, I don't want to pressure you. Not for anything more than this moment," he said carefully. "But I do want to know if we could explore what we never had the chance to." Elaine's heart skipped. Her mind raced, yet she felt a calm clarity. "This moment, it matters," she said softly. "Let's not rush, but yes, I'd like to try." He smiled, a genuine warmth spreading across his face. And in that smile, Elaine felt years of longing finally acknowledged. They moved to sit together, close enough to feel each other's presence without words. The letters rested on the table between them, silent witnesses to a past that had shaped this delicate now. Daniel peeked into the room quietly, unsure if he should interrupt. Seeing them together, sharing a moment of understanding, he smiled and stepped back.
He knew he had played a part, but this reunion belonged to them alone. Elaine reached for his hand, a tentative gesture, yet powerful. He responded immediately, fingers intertwining with hers. No words were needed. The connection spoke louder than any letter ever could. Outside, the sky had darkened into a soft twilight. A few stars began to emerge, shy and scattered. It felt symbolic, like hope quietly appearing after years of waiting. Elaine realized something profound. Time hadn't taken away the possibility of love. It had only made its presence quieter, more intentional, more meaningful. And as they sat there, together yet newly aware of all that had passed, Elaine understood the truth of what Daniel had done. He hadn't just delivered letters. He had delivered the chance for a life reshaped by honesty, courage, and heart. But as night deepened, a gentle tension lingered. This was only the beginning of understanding each other fully. There were questions to ask, stories to share, and fears to confront. And Elaine knew one thing. She was ready. The room was quiet now, but outside, the world seemed to hum with possibilities. She held his hand a little tighter, aware that the next moments would define more than just the evening. The truth had arrived, and now the future waited. Morning light spilled softly across the living room. Elaine woke to the quiet hum of the house and a gentle warmth beside her. He was still there, sitting in the armchair, eyes closed, as if savoring the calm of the morning. She hesitated for a moment, watching him. Years of longing, letters, and unspoken words had led to this fragile, perfect pause. It felt almost unreal that they had made it here. "Good morning," she whispered. His eyes opened slowly, catching hers with a tender intensity. "Good morning," he replied, voice soft but full of meaning. Elaine smiled, the weight from the past nights lifting slightly. "Coffee?" she asked, needing something ordinary to anchor them. He nodded, a small smile curling his lips. As she moved to the kitchen, she realized how natural this felt, like a rhythm she had been waiting for without knowing it. They drank coffee in companionable silence, words unnecessary. Even the letters sat folded neatly on the table, their presence acknowledged but no longer urgent. Finally, he spoke. "I wanted to say one more thing," he said carefully. "About the letters, and about us." Elaine listened, heart open. "I never stopped caring," he said. "I never stopped thinking of you, of the life you deserved, and of how I wished I could have been part of it." He paused, searching her eyes for understanding. "And now I just want to be here, if you'll let me." Elaine felt tears prick the corners of her eyes. Not from sadness, not from longing, but from the relief of being seen, truly seen, at last. "You don't have to explain anything," I said softly. "I know now. And I want to see where this can go, together." He reached for her hand across the table. This time there was no hesitation, only warmth, comfort, and the promise of a beginning. The days stretched ahead, quiet and unhurried. They walked through the neighborhood together, talking about small things first, memories, favorite books, little habits that had changed over the years. Laughter came easily, soft and genuine, threading itself into the morning air. Elaine noticed how natural it felt to share space with him again. Years had passed, yet the connection hadn't broken. It had only been waiting, patient, enduring, quietly strong. Later, they returned home and sat together on the sofa, the envelope of letters still nearby. Elaine picked it up and held it for a moment, then looked at him. "Thank you," she said, "for never giving up, even when it seemed impossible." He smiled, brushing a damp strand of hair from his forehead. "I had help," he said, nodding toward Daniel, who peeked in from the doorway with a proud grin. I think he knew this day would come. Elaine laughed softly, feeling lighter than she had in years. You're right, she said, and I'm grateful for both of you. The afternoon light shifted to evening, bathing the room in gold. They didn't rush. They didn't need to. For the first time in a long time, Elaine allowed herself to simply be present, to feel hope, possibility, and the quiet strength of honesty. To know that some truths, even when delayed, could arrive exactly when they were meant to. Daniel watched from the doorway once more, smiling. His mission had been complete. He had delivered the past, but he had also delivered the chance for a future. And now, that future was theirs to explore. Elaine and he sat together, hands intertwined, hearts open, ready to navigate this unexpected second chance. The world outside continued its rhythm, but inside, everything felt exactly as it should. No letters could contain the promise of tomorrow. No words could fully describe the warmth of finally being understood. But for Elaine, at last, it was enough to know that love, patience, and truth had led her to this moment. And as twilight deepened, soft and serene, she realized something she had never truly known before. Sometimes life delivers the messages we need the most in the most unexpected ways. And sometimes those messages arrive in the hands of someone who believes enough to carry them forward. Elaine leaned back, resting her head against his shoulder. Together, they watched the evening sky darken, a quiet hope shining brighter than any star. The past had been acknowledged, the present had been embraced, and the future, well, it was theirs to write.